Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We believe life is about how we react. Here we go. So what's going on? Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. Thanks for being here today. Kyle, there's something that I wanted to share. No, I'll keep it. I mean, I could share for a couple things, but I'll keep it to one. Because I recently went on vacation. I spent a week in Mexico at an all-inclusive. It was a group thing, so there were like 400 people, but I didn't know anybody.
Right.
There was one other guy who was probably 10 years younger than me in a wheelchair. And me, and we were the only ones in wheelchairs. Well, at an all-inclusive, right, you pay this chunk of money up front, but then you don't really pay for anything while you're there. Your food, your alcohol, it's all included. It was the first time doing that. I loved it. Like, to never once think about, dude, the coffee shop was included. Like, I never thought about that, right? So I just made it a habit of tipping. Couple dollars here, $1 here, $2 there.
Right.
And just little money, but still, it's a gesture. Especially if somebody had to run the drink. Like if you're at the pool and you have somebody come over, grab, go to the bar, bring it back to you. That's where I'm like, okay, I'm definitely tipping for those things, right? So one night, the other wheelchair user and I and a couple other acquaintances, we were hanging out in one of the bars, and we had gotten familiar with one of the bartenders. So I don't remember his name, but he was like that guy that was there every night and knew our drinks, and you just form a little bond for the couple days you're there.
Yeah.
Well, he had made the comment like toward the end of the week, like night 5. He had made the comment to both the other wheelchair user and I that we were the most consistent with tipping and most likely the only ones that were tipping generously.
Wow.
And that blew my mind because I'm not tipping, $5 a time. Like I'm giving $1 or $2.
Right.
And we were the most consistent and the most generous. So the other wheelchair user was like, well, what do you mean are people not tipping? He's like, no, not really. And it's funny because we all recognize the wheelchair guys are the ones that tip. And that blew my mind, bro.
Yeah.
I know for sure other guys make more money than me. Granted, I don't know what they're up against in life, what they're paying for. But I'm like, the people that probably are closer to living off of assistance are the ones that are freely tipping. Like, that says something. To me, it says something about our community. Sure, not everybody does, not everybody can. But I don't know about you, but I always feel like I need to. Because I think Uber and a taxi, right? It's no different for delivering a drink. But I think about Uber or a taxi or even the airline. Like, I know that getting me in and out of your car with my wheelchair is a little bit more work than most.
Right.
I also know that you loading my chair up or my walker risks scratching your car or maybe a dent or whatever. Like, I know that it's kind of cringy when you see me and you pull up. So I've always tipped, and I don't understand why other people don't.
Well, no, I hear you, and especially with the Uber thing, for me, I want to tip because I don't want that driver thinking whenever he sees a wheelchair user, that I'm screwed here. And so for me, it's like paying it forward, being part of the community, like representing our kind, right?
Yeah.
And so I wonder if it's easier to like follow the background and not step forward if you're part of the like able-bodied part, you know?
If you're part of the majority?
Yeah.
Maybe, but it's not okay.
Yeah.
So let's go
Alright.
back. Let's go back to you said you tip because you don't want that person to think, "Oh, shoot, here's a wheelchair, I'm screwed." So, is the bigger motivation for your tip for the sake of everybody else in a wheelchair?
Well, I think so. I mean, yeah, I guess I take your point that I'm not necessarily thinking about the driver and that he needs this cash or she,
Yeah.
but that it's going to affect the way this person perceives disabled people.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know if that's like kind of a selfish spin on generosity.
No, there are certainly times where I'm mindful of what I do or what I say is going to be reflective of other people with disabilities, but it's not super common that I have that thought when I'm ordering a drink at the bar or even Uber. But I'll certainly have that thought with an airline or an airport.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's a bigger deal there for me than it is at a bar or a resort. But yeah, I was surprised and a little disappointed, Kyle, that the two wheelchair guys there were known as the tippers and not anybody else.
Well, and for me, that's not surprising to hear that you tipped a lot because I know you like that's. But then this other guy who also happened to be in a wheelchair, right? Like and, that proves that's weird.
Sure. And he was probably more generous than, we were similar. He was tipping in pesos, but we were tipping the equivalent. So I was just doing dollars, which, they were thrilled either way.
Right.
So anyway.
Interesting.
Very interesting. But that leads us to the point of really what we want to talk about today, and that's the responsibility of achievement. We talk about tipping, and you kind of make the point. You feel responsible for the whole community to tip so that the community is generally looked upon in a more positive manner, right?
Right.
Kudos to you for having that mentality. I don't, but I get it. But what about achieving or doing something that maybe isn't super common in the world of disability, but when a disabled individual does it or accomplishes, it could be a double-edged sword, right? There's a lot of pride in feeling accomplished and getting something done, but then there could also be a lot of pressure. Like, I'm just saying, other people might say, stop doing that, you're making us look bad. Other people might say, okay, you're showing off. There's a whole spectrum of perspectives that I really thought we'd just hang out for a little bit, dive into what it means to you, what it means to me, kind of the challenge. Because the reality of it is, Kyle, especially for those that follow us and hang out with us and stay in tune with us, they know we do some crazy stuff, right? The bike rides, the climbs, the runs, whatever it may be. And you don't see a lot of that in the world of disability.
Right.
Well, it's not. That's not. You do see a lot of it. We're not the only ones. But maybe in our world of rare disease and that impact with disability, you don't see a lot of it. So I don't know. I thought we'd hang out a little bit there and talk about the responsibility of achievement and how that impacts us and the world around us.
Yeah. So what comes to mind to me is like, why do you do this? Like, I have a couple thoughts about why I do. Some of it is personal, like I want to do something awesome in my life, right? And or I want my I don't know, I want to leverage my disability. It may seem like a drag, but I want to find a way to make it not a drag. And because it's a big part of my life, I want to be able to use it to, improve myself or to go after something big. So that that was the whole reason at the beginning when I did my first bike ride in 2007. But then, during that bike ride, I was writing a blog every 3 days or so, and I started getting comments from all over, from in the FA community and outside, telling me how the actions of my family were helping them face the challenges in their lives. And that was when I found another drive, another gear that is driving me to contribute to the community. Like, that felt so good, and it always does still, right? Like, it's one of the greatest feelings when I hear, or when we hear about two disabled dudes, all the stuff we do, when we hear it's improving somebody else's life, I want more of that. And, that's the main driver, I feel like, of what I do now. But also, okay, one next level to it is like feeling the responsibility to keep going and always keep doing something bigger than what we did last time, and better, and driving that forward. So just a few thoughts.
Yeah, if you talk about next time doing something bigger, doing something better, I don't know that I feel the pressure to do that or the need. I remember years ago, right after we did RAM, Race Across America, I've had friends, I was still learning upright bike for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years after that. And I'd have friends that would want to do a century or go do a this or, go do some cycling event. And I just remember a couple times saying, I'm good. I feel like I've achieved and I have nothing else to prove.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like it's not like I hate the bike. It was just I don't love it like you do. But I didn't feel, sure, I'd want to hang out, do something with friends, but I didn't really feel like something was missing, right? I feel like I've already done the big one, so I'm good. I'll set this one out for a little bit. So I don't know. To me, it's funny. Of course, I still ride today, but it took a while to get back on the bike after RAM because that was such a massive undertaking. And even though I wasn't the strongest rider, even though it's come a long ways to think of it this way, but even India, even though I didn't get very far before an accident, I still feel accomplished because I did more than most people. And it's not always a comparison game. It's not like I'm better than everybody else, but I realize that I'm doing things that maybe disabled people shouldn't be doing, or not super safe,
That's a big driver for me too. Like, and I've said this before, like, people think I can't do it or that you can't do it, and you go, oh yeah, watch this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I love that. And maybe that's kind of immature, but I'm never gonna deny that's something that drives me too.
Yeah, I don't know about immature. I think it's human nature. I think we all do it, right? Maybe immature depending on the actions you take. But that mentality, I think it's natural. Everybody, whether it's, somebody's telling you that person you're dating is a bad choice, the way you're spending your money, that's horrible. That kind of feedback tends to cause us to lean into that even harder because we want to prove them wrong. Now, granted, sometimes we pay the price and oops, they were right. But I think human nature is, let me show you. And that pays off, right? That pays off in a lot of ways. You think on a bigger scale, Microsoft or Steve Jobs and Apple, like Amazon, those people all had naysayers in the beginning. They were like, oh, it's never going to work. That's a dumb idea. And I'm sure Elon Musk and other people you might label as successful, they've all had haters, and they probably leaned into it at some point and said, watch me,
Big time.
So in a way, that's maybe a good thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, Sean, let me ask you this. When you have someone who tells you how much what you're doing means to them, they hear that you're climbing the stairs in Switzerland, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. It means a lot to me, and I want to do that someday. What, I don't know, maybe, what are your thoughts about being put on that pedestal, and what do you say to that person? What is your advice?
That's like eight different questions. So let me, I'll pick out the ones that stick.
Yeah.
When somebody says, that's awesome, I'm going to do that. Of course, that's one conversation. You don't want to do it if it's not safe, right? Stay in your lane. And I'm not saying you can't come to my lane. I'm just saying, for me, we talked about it a while back. I'm doing the stairs next year because I assume in a couple years that really won't be safe. Swimming, riding a bike, doing things like that are probably always going to be safe, or they're going to be safe for a long time, right? But walking and climbing stairs in the dark, that's foolish. So let me do that now while it's less foolish than it might be in a couple years, right? So that's one thought of, sure, I love that people feel motivated to do something, but it doesn't always have to be the same thing. Like, honestly, Kyle, like I said, I don't love trekking as much as you. I don't feel like I need to do all of it like you do. And I'm okay with that. I would hate for somebody to feel like, oh, in order to be accomplished or to be achieved, I gotta do what those guys are doing, or I've gotta do it the way they're doing it. So I would talk about finding something that is a challenge, but is ultimately achievable and safe to do so. So, there's stuff for everybody. But ultimately, and I just started thinking about it this way this past year. What I do love about that kind of sentiment or those kind of conversations is that I recognize that me going out and doing something crazy is somebody else's permission to try something crazy, or to go out and do something they've never thought about. So sure, I crashed and bombed in India, but I believe it still gave somebody permission to think about something they want to do. I've heard you talk about it, and maybe it's in your book, I don't remember. But early on in your journey, you saw a guy circumventing the United States in a trike or in some sort of bike that you thought, wait a minute, I can do that. So had you not seen that, where would we all know Kyle Bryant and ride a taxi like we do today? Maybe, maybe not. But seeing that story, seeing those photos, video, whatever it was, gave you permission to try something you've never heard about. Like,
Yeah.
that right there is everything. And that's true in every area of life, right? Whether it's entrepreneurship or a relationship or the whatever. Like when you see somebody else do something, sure, maybe you don't want to do it exactly that way, but shoot, if Jimmy Fallon can break character and still be a successful actor, then anybody can do it, right? Or
Yeah. Yeah.
then other people can do it.
I love the way you frame that, especially with the FA. The disease, the objectively looking at the disease and how it affects people, there's a huge spectrum. And we both cannot deny that we were later diagnosed.
Yeah.
And we have a lot more physical abilities at the age of 44 than most people in the FA community.
Yeah.
And so it's not about the physical act of getting to the road or getting up the stairs. It's the thinking out of the box and doing something bigger, no matter what it is.
It's the mindset, right? Whether you actually go out and do it or you just live every day with that mentality of you can do whatever you put your mind to. There's a huge difference. I think of a handful of people in our world in FA or other rare conditions where sure, maybe their limitations don't allow them to travel across the globe or don't allow them to physically ride their bike across country. But man, they get up every day, they get a job done, they take care of themselves, they exercise, or they do their reading, or they watch what they eat, and they're committed to living the fullest life possible for them and in the context of what they're up against. And to me, that's a beautiful thing. That's what we talk often, and we've talked about it on the show. Inspiration or being somebody's inspiration, that's always kind of awkward and maybe not fair to put that pressure on other people, right? And I can't remember the comedian's name, but inspiration porn or whatever she called it. We'll link that in. There's a YouTube video or a TEDx.
Oh, that's right.
TED video.
Yeah. Okay, I remember now. Yeah.
Powerful. And now I've lost my train of thought. So being an inspiration, I think, can be hard and that's weird. But when you think of it as that level of inspiration is really just high level encouragement that convinces somebody else that they have the ability on one level or another to do things cool or impactful or to have an influence that maybe they didn't think they could have.
Yeah, I think and I've said this before, but one of the feelings that we get when we're first diagnosed is like my life is never gonna amount to anything. That's one of the feelings we get. We can't deny that.
Yeah.
And or my life is never gonna be meaningful in the way I had hoped. And okay, maybe the way is different. The how you get there is different, but there is so much meaning to be had no matter what you're doing. And you can still find that if you have a disability like FA or any other disability. So
sure.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what might be labeled toxic positivity? Always the sun is shining, right? In your favor. We all know human nature is we're all gonna have bad days, right? Things are going to go wrong. And I think in our day and age today, social media, a lot of people are showcasing the cool stuff. Some are, very open about the hard stuff too, but generally, the social norm is, look how pretty I am. Look at all the muscle I have. Look at all the money I've saved. Look at all the achievement. But they're struggling behind the scenes with emotions or whatever. So what are your thoughts on, I don't know, being vulnerable and open and honest, but also not a Debbie Downer all the time?
Yeah, I know. I think about this because I just picture all the posts on my grid on Instagram, right? And they're only showing all the good stuff. Like, it's so easy to just not turn the camera on when you're having a real tough time, right? Like, it's with social media, I feel like it's easy to like have that like gate or check on what you display to the world, right? Because you either turn the camera on or don't turn it on. And I mean, I have a tough time being vulnerable, and I mean, I think it is tough for everyone, probably. I think maybe some people it comes a little more naturally, right? But yeah, how to show all the difficulty and struggle. There are days that I wouldn't want anyone to see it, like of me, right? And so I don't know. I think that's a hard thing to do.
Well, throw it out. We have a couple of people tuning in live, so if anybody has advice or how you think of it or want to talk about it, please throw it out there. But as you were talking, I just thought about the whole idea of, I'm losing my train of thought again. I'm sorry. I went to the chat and I shouldn't have.
Sorry.
Sorry, y'all. Yeah. When you do something, a lot of people are some people look at you with a lot of pride, right? I think of my mom. She's like, yeah, go. Let's do it. Other people look at you like, oh, wow, that's cool. Good for you. Other people might look at you and say, why? Why are you telling me about this? Why are you doing, like, I don't care. Or, quit talking about yourself, right? I especially think that when you talk about having a bad day and turn the camera on, Kyle, I'm more skeptical than probably the average human being, just for the record. So when I see somebody online being vulnerable, I generally don't think positively. And I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Generally, if somebody's crying or, they're expressing a hardship, my immediate thought is, are you looking for sympathy? Like, why are you crying on camera? And I know that's horrible, and that's not. I don't voice that. I don't, it's not like a comment like, "Oh, screw you." But I recognize that those thoughts come to mind when I'm seeing somebody being vulnerable, and I hate that about me. That part of me. So again, I don't know where it comes from. I think it's part of human nature or skepticism. But how do you balance that? Like, I want to be open and vulnerable so people's out and authentic, but I also don't want to beat that horse, if you will. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a way to do it. And right now I'm thinking of Fiona Colley. She was on Jimmy Fallon. What? First of all, let's just recognize that, okay?
Good on you, Fiona. I love that.
Oh my gosh, it was mind blowing because, she was hilarious and vulnerable. Right? I'll address that in a second, but right now, like, Jimmy Fallon literally said to find out more about Friedrich's ataxia. Like, he said the word Friedrich's ataxia, and oh my gosh. he said go to curefa.org. Anyway,
love that.
That was just huge and mind-blowing. But my point of bringing this up is that Fiona described a situation in an airport where somebody prayed for her, and it's a very common thing among people in wheelchairs especially. Let me pray for your paralysis. And she was like, well, first of all, I'm not paralyzed. I think Adam may have put Fiona's video in the chat. So
and be careful.
Thank you.
This is her bit, right? So Kyle, don't mess it up. She wasn't telling a story. But go ahead.
So she's being vulnerable in telling the story about this person who prayed over her. She's talking about the things that are tough in her life.
Sure.
She's being funny about it, and it's really, palatable for everyone.
Yeah.
But it really, that story could be told by somebody who's sobbing because they're feeling sorry for themselves.
Or they're offended.
Maybe, maybe neither one is right or wrong, but there are two different ways of doing it. That in one way, it's sharing a little bit about yourself and your experience, but it's a little more, I don't want to say appropriate, but I don't know, just different, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I think you bring up a huge point, Adam. Thanks so much for that link. I'm seeing the Fiona and the Jimmy Fallon bit on social media, incredible, powerful, and I'm so proud. So whether you find it on YouTube or Instagram, wherever, please go find it, and we'll link it in our show notes when this episode posts. But this reminds me of another point in this whole conversation. I don't think Fiona, you, me, or most, other Superman, Christopher Reeves, nobody stands up and says, or raises their hand and say, okay, I'll represent the disabled community, I'll represent all FAers. But there's the responsibility in the way you carry yourself and in the way you act. And that responsibility is earned. It's not given to you just because you had an injury or you have a diagnosis. That responsibility shows up and is most powerful when somebody says, not I'm jealous or I wish I could, but when somebody says, you've helped me understand or you helped me see a different perspective. And that's when we're successful. So whether it's because we tell a joke or because we have a moment of vulnerability and crying, or we're showing off what we can do, whatever the element is or that persona is in the moment, there's some power. And when other people see it and say, oh my gosh, I get it now, or I understand now, or I understand better. And that, to me, is where you have those aha moments, that's what it's all about. I'm going to keep doing it to help other people see why and what and who and how. So, sorry, just a little side note.
Yeah, no, it is really powerful. It doesn't happen very often, but I feel like we all sort of hit that note every once in a while where you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm expressing myself accurately and, other people appreciate it too. Like I said, it doesn't happen very often, but that's what makes it so magical and so powerful to either see that. And there are, like I was saying before, there are some people who do that really well and do it very consistently, right? And they're in touch on a different plane with themselves, with everybody else or something.
Yeah.
And you really have to appreciate that, Yeah.
I love Pamela left a comment talking about the struggle. of, on socials. It's a long comment, so I won't read the whole thing, Pamela. I hope you don't mind me paraphrasing. But she wants to share the good, the bad, along with all the amazing, beautiful things in life. She wants to be her, but she also struggles to do it all. I find I don't do it consistently, she writes, because once it's out there, it's a free for all, and anything goes, and you never know how people will react. And although you're absolutely right, I don't think this makes it any easier. But I have to remind myself all the time that haters are gonna hate, right? And that's true for everybody. I'm trying to think non-controversial people, right? So Robin Williams comes to mind.
Okay.
Sure, it's heartbreaking that his life ended the way it did, but I guarantee you, I feel like probably the majority of society is probably holds Robin Williams in high esteem, right? He had an incredible and impactful career. He touched lives. He made people laugh. He helped them he was just from what I know and what I've read from, a distance, he's a good human being. But I guarantee you, there were people that hated him. There were people that made fun of him. There were people that ridiculed him. But he still did some pretty amazing stuff and tried to ignore all that. It's going to be true for all of us. There are going to be people that just don't like you or just don't like what you do. And no matter what, you're not really going to change their perspective. But that doesn't mean we can't or shouldn't be ourselves and show off what's important to us. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm maybe going down a rabbit hole there.
No, my immediate thought was like, haters gonna hate, whatever, don't listen to them. And that's the easy answer, right? But I also think like it's not that easy. But sure. It's a risk worth taking because, I think Robin Williams is a good example because if you're risking being ridiculed, but you can achieve what he did, being an actor and making so many people laugh and just being a wonderful person, if you can somehow get through the difficult parts of putting yourself out there, because it is going to be difficult, there's probably no denying that. Yeah. Then it's worth it. I remember, so it's in my book, but I on the first bike ride I took, I was writing the blog, and somebody posted in a comment, or maybe it was in an email directly to me, and said, "You're never gonna amount to anything. Stop riding your bike, poster boy," like mocking, right? And it hit me so hard. Like, we're putting out so much effort to do this thing for, what was started as for me and for my family, and turned into for the community and for something bigger. And here's somebody like saying the exact thing that he knows will go straight to my heart, straight to my head, right?
Yeah.
And there's, like Pamela says, you never know how people will react. But it's a risk worth taking. I think, I do not regret taking the risk of completing that bike ride and risking yet another person making a similar comment, right? So, so it's worth taking.
Yeah, that's a good point. I love that. And Kyle, we've been going 40 minutes or so already. So there is one thing I want to ask you as we move closer to maybe wrapping up. Unless, of course, there are people live today that want to chime in a little more or dig in a little more. I want to talk about the tension that exists between being honest and vulnerable, authentic, while not discouraging others. So, I think about the bike accident, right? I want to be honest about it, but I would hate for the fact that I crashed to keep somebody else from taking the risk, right? So, of course, that's kind of high level, but even with the disease or something else, like, you don't want to. I don't. I don't want to get online. We'll stick on the social media thing, I guess. I don't want to get online and list the hard stuff every day, right? Because there's probably 10 or 12 things that frustrate me every day because of FA, right? Whether it's being tired or, struggling to get the key in the door or spilling my coffee or just dumb stuff. But it's frustrating. Well, I don't want to get online every day and have a venting session because I'm afraid that's going to discourage somebody else. Sure, there might be humor. Somebody might laugh. But I would hate for that to discourage a 12-year-old who just found out that they have this condition or something of that nature. So, what do you do there?
Yeah, I think that's a tough one. Also, what comes to mind to me in being honest is like, I've answered emails and phone calls of like, oh, I'm gonna get a trike and I'm gonna ride, across country, or something of that nature. And it's hard to impress how much work. Like, okay, you've got to ride 100 miles a week.
Yeah.
You start slow, ride 5 miles first, then ride 20, but being honest about what it actually is, because, we display what the achievements and the great things on social media, but we don't talk about all the work that is required to make it to the top of those stairs or the top of whatever we're going for. And I think that's the honesty that I struggle with. And I think it's a similar thing when, like, you know what? Some days are just tough. Not only the training and the prep and all that, but just some days. We all have to make it through life, make it through the day, maybe start a new day anew. And it's not necessarily all the training, but just living it and getting through the stuff that goes on in your head and the relationships and the connections with everybody in life. But I don't know that answered your question.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. There really is an answer for it. It's an uphill battle. My takeaway today is the line you said, it's worth the risk. And that's a decision everybody makes on their own, right? And you weigh, is that worth the risk in your life, or the risk to your friendships, or the risk to your mental health, or whatever it may be? Everybody's going to weigh that a little bit differently. So, Kyle, there are a few takeaways that come to mind that I want to share. Obviously, the big one for me, think about the risk. Is it worth it? A lot of times, we'd probably argue, yes. I also want to encourage you, you don't owe anyone any perfection. Or really, you don't owe anyone anything. So sure, crashing in India was the tough pill to swallow, but the further away from it I get, I feel like I owe it to myself to try again, but I don't feel like I owe any. Like, there's no pressure to prove to anybody else, just myself.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, you know what? Also, like, people are gonna decide what it means to them. You get to decide what it means to you, and then they'll see you and decide what it means to them. It's not our responsibility to control what others think of us, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, this is a deep subject, deep and wide.
Yep. I'd also add you don't owe anyone constant upward momentum.
Mhm.
Like you said, Kyle, in the beginning, you always want to go bigger and better. I think that's fine if you want to do it for yourself, but I don't believe you owe me or the community or anybody else the next big thing. If that's
Yeah.
important to you, let's go. Heck yeah,
Yeah.
move on. But I will say for everybody, right? No matter where you're at in life, no matter how old, no matter how your diagnosis journey, wherever you're at, everybody holds influence. What you
Mhm.
do with that influence is up to you. So that's the ultimate question I would pose. What do you want to do with it? How do you want to be perceived? Or what do you want people to see or think? Sure, there are always going to be people that don't align with you, but what do you want to do with the influence that you have? And
Yep, I
Kyle,
like that.
that's all I got.
All right. Wow, what a transition to the end. Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Before we wrap up with thank you notes, any regular listener knows we wrap up every episode with some what we call a note of gratitude or a thank you note, expressing gratitude for somebody or something that's made a positive impact on life. We recognize that having gratitude just helps keeps us grounded. So I will say before that, Adam, way back in the beginning, talked about tipping, and he's incredibly generous. He says, I give them a $10 bill or 20. Oh, he does it once and then always goes back to that same server or waiter or whatever it may be. And that's probably a good approach because, I do the same maybe on cruise ships. If I have a new waiter, it might just be $2. But if it's the same person, I give them 5 or 10 here and there. Not necessarily every time, but it creates a bond. So Adam, I like that approach. I think you're on to something.
Yep, I like that.
And then of course, we'll throw in Fiona's videos on her recent appearance on Jimmy Fallon.
Oh.
So Kyle, I already kind of set us up. We'll wrap up with our thank you notes. Who are you saying thank you to this week or today?
Last week, the Farah staff had a 2-day training where we trained on some new procedures and stuff that we're doing.
I'm sorry. What I heard was we had a 2-day training where we spent 2 days training. And anyway, that was the loop in my head. Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, yeah, repeating myself, yeah.
No, you weren't. I thought you were going to, and to me it was funny.
And I'll just keep saying that for a couple hours, yeah. No, but so we had some training that seemingly, like, when you read about what it was, you'd be like, this is going to be so boring.
Sure.
Oh my gosh.
Cheesy.
But, Jamie Dean made it fun. She organized the whole thing. She's on our staff at Farah. She's been there for a long time, and she's the best. And she made it fun. Not only the meeting part, but we also at 3:00 on last Thursday, we did a scavenger hunt through the city of Westchester, Pennsylvania. And it's this some service where you use an app, and there's we had 4 different teams, and it was a scavenger hunt kind of team building kind of thing, and she organized that whole thing too. And so, made the training fun, plus made sure we had lots of time for team building. And so my thank you goes to Jamie Dean.
Nice work, Jamie. I'm saying thank you to a good friend of mine, Justin Blinkel. We've been friends for probably 15, 18 years, somewhere around there. Justin and I got to know each other through improv. We used to do improv comedy together. But Justin was the connection to my current job. He had worked for Nugget about a year prior to me, and he knew that I wasn't happy with what I was doing and where I was at, so he encouraged me to apply and help me, good referral, positive words. And now 16 years later, I've got a little career with this company, and it's all because of him. And he's on mine today.
That's
because
awesome.
He lives out in the Bay Area now, so we're not super close. I don't see him often, but I was in the Bay Area for work yesterday, and he hit me up right before I left, and we ended up grabbing dinner and just having a great time over food for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and it just warms my heart. We're not super close, but I consider him a brother, and he's one of my, I've known him for a long time, so I'm really grateful for him and grateful that he turned me on to the job. He's still working for the company, so we're both doing cool things, but I'm just so grateful that he's still a
That's
friend
wonderful.
in my
Well,
life.
it sounds mutual because I'm sure he's proud of what you've done, and it kind of works out for everybody. So that's wonderful to have people in your life like that.
For sure. Pamela says, "Hey, let's hang out," or "I'd love to meet you." So, Pamela, I don't know where you're at in the world, but I live in Sacramento. Every now and then, I work in Marin County, which is north of the Golden Gate Bridge. So, yeah, keep me posted. Let's get a coffee or whatever. You guys, thanks so much for being here today and joining us. We only have one more live episode, and we look forward to a regular season next year. Next spring, we're going to do the pre-recorded, the normal approach, so we're looking forward to that as well. Of course, we encourage you to check out our show notes, where you can find links to some of the things we talked about. Visit our website, twodisableddudes.com, where you'll find all of our previous episodes, which you can also find on pretty much any streaming platform you use, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever the cool ones are, right? Whatever the cool kids are using, probably there, because we're cool kids too. We'd encourage you to share the episode or the podcast with a friend. Of course, we'd love for you to rate and even review on whatever platform you use. Those reviews go a long way for helping our podcast gain credibility, traction, and just keep doing what we've been doing now for 9 years.
Man,
we look forward to chatting with you again soon. Until then, keep living with urgency.
Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. This show is possible with your support. Visit twodisableddudes.com to stay connected.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast player.